Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're very happy that you can join us for another week.
We certainly are.
And we are very lucky. Today we have Dr. Elsbeth and Freddy Zental Meuth. They have assisted thousands of couples and singles create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their life and relationships. They are featured on Showtime's documentary series, Sexual Healing, and the Emmy Award NBC show Starting Over. Best-selling authors of Sexual Enlightenment, endorsed by world-renowned spiritual pioneer Dr. Michael Beckwith, and the co-founders of Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago. They've coached billionaires, innovators, and power couples all over the world, shared their intimacy secrets at a global Young Presidents Organization conference in the City of Love, Paris, and got nominated as Changemaker at the White House, sponsored 2016 United States of Women Summit in Washington, D.C. They are beloveds, husband and wife, as well as business partners residing in Chicago. So we're very excited to have you on our podcast today. And thank you for sharing the book with me. It's so interesting. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves and how you kind of got started in this?
Yeah, we're glad to. Thank you for having us on your platform. So my name is Freddy Zental, and this is my partner and beloved, Dr. Elsbeth Meuth. And we started our work about 22 years ago here in Chicago. But I was first introduced to a lot of what we teach when I was 13 years old. I was living in Hawaii, going through my puberty, spending a lot of time in the shower, as a lot of guys are doing at that age. And my father at the time was a practicing psychiatrist and took pity on me, probably thought I was going to hurt myself in there, and gave me a book to read on how to integrate sex and meditation. Wow. Well, I loved it. My girlfriend loved it. And even more than that, I was going in a freshman into high school. I had this idea, this dream, this hope, this desire to go on to college on athletic scholarship. But living in Hawaii at that time and not thinking I would get the coaching or the recognition living there, it was a belief. And the practice has assisted me in shifting that deep belief into, with ease, grace, and flow, going on to college on athletic scholarship. Now, I did all the things in the world that you do to do that, practice, going to camps and so on. But it was with ease and grace, and it just came to me. So after college, I kept reading books and going to workshops and applying these principles in my personal relationships. And I was in the software business for many years. After about 15 years, it was just a job. And knowing what I knew about my own engagement in life, I wanted to reinvigorate myself. So I took an opportunity with a company in Chicago. I'd never lived here. And I really came here to meet Elsbeth. I was online. I was single online looking for a Shakti, a female tantra partner. We're one of the original online couples. and almost 6 months to the day, we, what I call, transcended the romantic drama and created this work. And thusly, we've worked with thousands of couples and individuals all over the world, with corporate groups and all kinds of demographics of race and gender and education and economics. And anybody in a body who's willing can get this work. It's really about moving with grace, ease, and flow towards what we most deeply desire. And we'll get into how that kind of works in terms of where we come from and how we look into the world and what we see as possible and how we work with all of that through the work that we do. So excited to be here.
Excited to hear it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, because I think that this is something that people will really enjoy. I know that I really loved how you got into the book, and then you started, talking about the different chakras and the alignment, and then how some past things, whether we know it or not, really contribute to some of the ways that we feel about sexuality and things like that in our growing years. So I thought that was a really interesting point that you made in there.
Yeah, that's the core of our work, and we're looking forward to talking more about that too. But
okay. Me?
Yes, it's you, Elsbeth.
All right. All right. My story couldn't be more different from Freddy's. So I wish I would have had a dad who would have given me a book on sex consciousness when I was a teenager. However, far from it. I grew up, as you probably can tell from my accent. I was born and raised in Germany, and then came to this country in my late 20s I'm one of 10 children. My dad was really strict. They did not appreciate when I blossomed into this young woman in puberty, needed to keep the lid on me, but I, of course, didn't like that. Anyway, so I came to the United States in my late 20s to do postgraduate work in music. And then a few years later, I got my doctorate in education. And then I moved into management consulting. So that was in the 90s, and I had gotten really good at consulting. However, I was really despaired in terms of intimate relationships. I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while that was exciting at times, most of the time I was alone. And it hit me at one moment where I could see the trajectory that if I were not to change that pattern of attracting unavailability, I would end up without lasting intimacy and love in my life before I leave this planet. And I didn't want to settle for that. So that was the moment when I decided to delve deeply into meditation, because I knew that there was something in the way for me, but I couldn't see it, what it was. So I needed some assistance, some support from an outside source. And after the delving into meditation, I went to study Tantra. I had learned of Tantra through books, but never applied myself really to it as a discipline, as a practice. And in that, taking it on, going to workshops, and really going into the deep healing of the tantric practice, what opened up for me was that I saw, and it's not so much, conceptually seeing, it's more like in the experience. What I saw was that in my subconscious, there was like distrust towards men. I didn't know about that until then. I was very charming. I was inviting. I reeled in the guys. If you had known me, the two of you at the time, you wouldn't have called me a distrusting bitch. No, not at all. Underneath, which is not accessible to the conscious mind, there was something running. And in that healing practice, that was particularly important, like a pivotal moment for me, what I touched into was an experience of the time when I was 18 years old. First boyfriend, first love. We had a quite blissful relationship. And then he asked me to have intercourse. I said yes, although I was not ready. And it was freakingly painful. I had to go to the gynecologist. The bill from the gynecologist went to my house. My dad opened it. All hell broke loose. He called me a whore. The boyfriend left the relationship after a few weeks. So there I was, totally alone, no one to turn to. And that was the moment when I made a decision, this kind of nanosecond decision that we make to cope with some traumatic event. And for me, it was something like, see, Elsbeth, men are not there for you when you need them. And while that was so at that moment that my dad and this boyfriend were not there for me, I took this into my young adulthood. I mean, not consciously, and then into my adulthood. And no wonder that I attracted unavailable men, because that was further proof that, see, Elsbeth, men are not there when you really need them. So in a very curious way, we create the very thing we don't want, if there is something underlying. And so by clearing that through the tantric healing process, which is like opening a valve, first it gets intense. So the the pain, the emotional pain, the physical pain from that 18-year-old really got reawakened. And then just like the steam out of the valve fizzles, the pain fizzled out. It was a clearing, a healing, a releasing. And then in place of it, what opened up was trust. Trust in myself, because that is often what goes first. Why didn't you speak up, Elsbeth? Why didn't you say something? You cannot even trust yourself. You can't even count on yourself. So shifting that into me trusting again myself, then trusting men in general. And then Freddy came into my life 6 months later.
Ta-da!
And Barbara, I think I would not have recognized him as a potential partner if I hadn't done that clearing work of the unavailability, because he was available. If I still had been in the pattern, I would not have we wouldn't have met like this. Would have not been an attraction,
Yeah, yeah.
And
This is a great story because it really illustrates how the work really works with anybody who's looking to shift something, because we have these experiences in our life and they are like deeply rooted. We look into the world and we make our world up from those experiences, and we're all that clay, everybody. And so the good news is, and what connects us, I feel, to this elegant design of the universe that goes on forever, which is even hard to imagine, is our imagination, our capacity to dream and think and imagine something that we've never experienced before. Now, the work is, how do we get out of this story that we believe, from the experiences that we have, that we look into the world from, to move towards this dream, this idea, right? And so this is the work of the energetic yoga that we teach. And it's really shifting it and working with the altered state of the sexual energetic experience. So typically when we're having a sexual experience with ourselves or with a partner, we're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed, more endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. Now, we teach certain distinctions and a particular ritual practice that go along with that. So now with an awareness of breath and energy and intention, like I want to create a beloved or work that's fulfilling or a place that's inspiring to live, whatever it might be, we get more connected to what we don't see running in the background that's creating what we're getting. And that's a story, that's an energy, that's a vibration, that's a frequency. And we start to get more connected to seeing what we've been doing to get what we've been getting to now create something new.
I like that. And I like how you say the clay, because I think that is really explains us as humans and how we can mold and shape ourselves and have that flexibility to change that and shift those ideas. Because if we weren't like that, we would just be stuck where we were with our past traumas or past stories or the stories we tell ourselves. So I think it's very interesting that you use the meditation and the breath with that to release that, I guess. And so is that part of how you find what is getting you stuck in that area?
Yeah, so, unlike therapy that is very much based in talk, like talk therapy, which has its place. However, it also has its limitations, because certain things, like for me, this experience of the 18-year-old, I worked on it in therapy in my 30s. It was very helpful. It was also really great to have a therapist there who really listened to me, who took me seriously, where I could share myself and feel into this. So I thought it was all complete. However, what I didn't know was that, in that subconscious, we call it on the cellular level of the being, there we hold memory. And that experience of the 18-year-old was held there. But that's not accessible to the conscious mind. So I cannot talk about it. It looks like, to the conscious mind, it looks like everything is fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, you must know this from your own work, but underneath it may be raging. It may be like ready to explode. And so that was the gift for me of that tantric healing ritual that we also teach in our advanced COVID workshop. So that by tapping into this, onto this in the cellular being, that only can be accessed through tapping into our energetic self, you know. And of course, these rituals, they are prepared first with where we actually guide participants, no matter if they come solo, like I started my tantric journey, or if they come as a couple, guide them so that they can access their subconscious and look at what story is running me. But it's an experience, it's not an analysis. It just shows up in the way we feel or what we sense in the body, and then things come up just like that. And then there are processes to release that through sexual rituals, through just subtle energy clearing rituals, you know.
Yeah, the somatic is really, there's so much held there. It's good to get the left brain analytical stuff. Thank you for helping me understand. Yet what's living in the background and neurosynaptically and in our memory is deeply rooted, and we aren't even aware of it. So, some sort of altered state. Some people do plant medicine trips. Some people do meditation retreats. There's a lot of approaches, but none that I know of teach how to work consciously with the altered state of the sexual. And that's an altered state that anybody in a body has experienced, and we all come through that path. And there is an intelligence encapsulated when we bring consciousness to that sexual energy. The kernel of it, the core of it is creative. It creates life. It's pleasurable when we're in it. And when you bring consciousness to it, creativity and pleasure start showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex. So when I, in a ritual with myself in a self-love practice, am so deeply connected and so intimately shifted and chemically shifted with intention, now that listening starts to show up in other areas. So if I say, oh, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement, words have an energy to them. And so I'm listening to the cascading effect of that negative thought even. And I wouldn't even say that when I'm in that kind of an awareness. So this is where things start to shift outside of the bedroom. And so the way that you are in your relationships and the kind of conversations you have and how you can listen to how your energy shifts, and you can listen to requests, you can make requests. You can, we've seen so many couples, and many times, so there's different aspects for the male and the female in terms of estrogen and testosterone. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but if it's okay, let's just build a little bit. So, because when we talk about sexual energy, let's just go before that a little bit, and let's talk about energy. And I know you two are very familiar with that. And so energy is something that we don't get educated in our traditional, school or college. It's actually, human energy is not addressed at all. I mean, did you hear about human energy in biology class? On the other hand, I learned about nuclear energy, thermal energy, electrical energy when I went to school, but not my own human energy. And it's so curious because it's the most powerful energy there is, because it brings forth life.
Mm-hmm.
So energy runs through us at all times. It is given to us at the moment of conception and then leaves us or our body, let's say, when we leave this planet. And energy is connected, goes hand in hand with the breath. When we don't breathe, we die. Yeah. So if they go together in dying, they must go together when we are alive. And in the tantric practice, we put that to use, because also energy, while we don't generate our own life force energy, we can affect the flow of energy.
Yes.
So let's say I have a headache. I can either sit there and suffer with a headache, or I can use my breath, breathe into my headache, not resisting, And then on the exhalation, again, with intention and attention, moving the energy of the headache that is a constriction to move it down and out of my torso into the seat, into the floor, if I lie down, into the mattress, and, into the earth. And if I do this for a few times with full intentionality, the headache is going to leave, at least lessen. So we can actually affect the different states of energy within us. So headache is a physical pain constriction. There could be an emotional pain constriction, like if I'm in grief or, have been in sadness for a long time. It may turn into a depression or so. There is an energetic constriction, very different to when my heart lives in joy, in love, in gratitude. These are elevated emotions. So these are expansive frequencies. So we have the body. When energy shows up in the body, we call it a sensation, like the headache, the knot in the stomach. I feel hot, I feel cold. Emotionally, they are either elevated emotions or restrictive emotions. And then, of course, that also plays out in our thoughts. If I think I'm not lovable, wow, talking about the cascading, I feel emotionally not worthy. My heart may feel actually heavy. I may form over time like an issue with the organ heart.
Yeah, the thing about that is, say someone in their life had a parent that kept telling them they were nothing, and so they had that experience, and then they took it on, and now they're in their life and they're going through therapy and they're wanting to shift that, and they see where they keep deprecating themselves and so on. That is a story that's so deeply rooted that it's beyond intellectual. And so it requires the somatic digging in, energetic and willing to. And what we do is we work with a thing called the witness state of mind, where you develop the capacity to observe your thinking, observe your body and sensations, and then move it, as Elsbeth said, with the breath. So you can learn to put your attention on a location and sensation and intention with your breath to move it. And you can do that with sexual energy. You can do that with pain body energy. And people can learn to take responsibility for I can't change the weather, but I can change how I feel about it. And that's when people start owning their lives in a way.
That's so true. I like how you put that attention and intention together. I love that. Yeah, because it's so important.
Yeah, it really helps someone focus their mind, because you say, okay, move the breath, move the energy out. They're like, oh, okay, I'm thinking about moving it out, but I don't feel anything happening. Their mind's just thinking about squirrel, whatever, So you say attention on the sensation, location, and intention. So you're using now your mind to do something physical, emotional, energetic.
So then back to, we talked about energy showing up in the physical body as a sensation, in the emotional body as an emotion, in the mental body as a thought, and then, of course, our spiritual or higher self or consciousness self, where we connect with the universal consciousness. Yeah. So there are 4 dimensions, and we at times speak about the integration of the sexual and spiritual. And that is such a dichotomy, for most cultures and religions. Like the sexual belongs in the bedroom and the spiritual belongs into the church or the temple or the mosque. How can we bring them together in an integration? So we humans are earthly beings and heavenly beings simultaneously, all the time. And as long as we are in this physical body, we have this capacity to feel and sense. We are equipped with so many nerve endings. And there are particular places in our body, like the breast for a woman, or the clitoris, or the G-spot for the woman, or the penis, or in Sanskrit, It's called Lingam Magic Wand or Wand of Light, much more endearing than
Big head.
Yes. You know, so we are equipped in that way. We wouldn't have gotten that from the divine coming into this existence if it hadn't been for a purpose, you know. So, and at the same time, we are that spiritual consciousness being. So in the tantric practice, we get to integrate that by breathing up that wonderful feeling that may arise in our sexual center. You know, for both men and women, you can breathe it up into the heart. It opens the heart. It embellishes the heart. It expands our love. We become more integrated between our sex and our love. For men, perhaps connecting the sex with the heart. For women, it may be more, or the one who is more in their feminine, because it doesn't apply just to women. Anyone who is more in their feminine could be a man in a same-sex couple. For the one who is more in their feminine, the connection of the heart with the sex. So it may go down the loving, you know, our beautiful sexual self, and then up into the third eye and into our spiritual consciousness self. Mm-hmm. So what happens then is that this spiritual can communicate and inform my sexual self, and my sexual self can enliven my spiritual self. They are distinctly different energies. Yep. Yet when they start dancing together, oh, it's pure bliss.
Yeah, we said, you know, that the world, we won't be able to make, I believe, that spiritual quantum leap in seeing ourselves and each other, you know, peace on earth, just a thought away, till we stop the vilification of the sexual. And I'm not talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm talking about we could teach these practices to nuns and priests if they were vowed to celibacy. It's about where this energy takes us emotionally, energetically, and chemically. And once you embody that, even in a self-love practice, that's the way you're looking and feeling and being in the world. Mm-hmm. So if someone's in pain, you can really sense that and be more connected to that. Or if someone is needing help or needing, you know, it enlivens your sensation of life. Yeah. So, you know, the whole idea of what we're...
Yeah, let's just, because I want to build on what you just brought up, which is that, you know, we distinguish between sex and sexual energy. So having sex is the sexual act, which is wonderful. Yeah? Sexual energy can be experienced in many ways. So sexual energy is life force energy. They are the same, you know, just showing up at different gradation. So gradations, so like when we are sitting here, you're listening, the audience is listening, I'm speaking. Life force energy is at a subtle level, at a subtle state. And then when I walk at Lake Michigan, we are in Chicago, and in the summer, it's just gorgeous there. And then I feel the breeze, you know, touching my skin. I'm not highly aroused, but it feels very pleasant. So there is a slight rising of energy. And then, of course, in a self-love practice or the practice with a beloved, you know, coming up to this climactic state, you know, my energy is, you know, highly aroused. It's life force energy that expresses itself at that moment in this particular way. So we can really start moving and guiding and flowing with that beautiful energy. And often it doesn't have to be expressly sexual. However, it may be greatly pleasant or pleasurable.
Yes, the thing of it is that, you know, forever we've been procreating with this energy. In the last 100 or so years, recreating with the development of contraceptives. And what we're sharing is how to co-create with this creative life force energy. And if people learn sexual meditation, I guarantee it'll shift the way that they look into and experience their life. And it doesn't have anything else to do with anybody else. necessarily.
Right. So through this tantric practice then and the meditation, so basically you're becoming more alive and more free and really experiencing all things in life, like where you were mentioning, with the wind, and it just awakens your whole body and soul and energy and your life force.
Yeah, you see people, you look at somebody, they come to work, you say, what happened? They say, well, I'm in love, and that's what happens. People kind of they get in love, and then that's okay. And that's when they feel great because it's like, it's ordained then. It's like, because you're with somebody else and it's something you only do with somebody else. And it's only, as opposed to, having it as a meditation with yourself to feel that way all the time and alive, and also fall in love and share it with whomever you want to, when you want to, exclusively, or however you want to do it.
Yeah.
But to learn new ways to draw on this energy to vitalize your life experience. And that's what we're talking about, because people hear it and they go, oh, it's pornographic, or it's just like something that you do with everybody, or you just do it with your beloved, or do you need somebody else to do it? And then once they really get into what we're sharing with them, couples even, they get how they can work with themselves to shift and do things together. And then it doesn't take away from the mutual lovemaking stuff, the quickies in the morning and all the other wonderful things we do with it. It's an expanded experience.
It enhances anything else. And we also in the process become more conscious, more aware, that then opens up deeper connection with self, deeper connection with the beloved. And, what about if we were to do a brief practice so that people can get an experience of when we talk about, breathing and moving energy, it may sound a little bit, well, how does it work? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We love that.
I want to just share, this is a short one first. We'll just do like about 30 seconds of this, and then we'll do what Elsbeth has in mind to do.
The belly breath.
Yeah.
Right.
Sit up comfortably as you can be, that you are being comfortable sitting on top of your sit bones, really feeling the stack of your spine on top of your sit bones. Your eyes can be open, closed, or soft focus. Beautiful. Maybe put a hand on your belly for first few breaths to get a sense of this. Now bring your awareness to your breath coming into your nose and your attention on this breath and location, and intention to follow it with your awareness down your trachea, lungs, extending into your diaphragm, and then expanding the belly on your inhalation into your hand. And stay with the focus with your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. Your eyes can be open, closed, or soft focus. Stay with this. Following your breath into your nose, down your trachea, lungs, extending into your diaphragm and belly like a big balloon on your inhalation. Feeling the belly extend into your hand on your inhalation. Following and feeling your belly flatten towards your spine, following your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. Stay with that breathing. I'm going to keep speaking. As your mind wanders with other thoughts and other stories, just let it be, acknowledge it, let it go, don't engage. Bring your awareness and focus back to your breath. Following your breath into your nose, trachea, lungs, extending into your diaphragm and belly like a big balloon on your inhalation. Following with your awareness, your breath back up and out through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. Stay with it, letting your thoughts come, letting your thoughts go. Rise of your belly on your inhalation. Flattening of your belly on your exhalation. Through your nose in your own pace, depth, and rhythm. You are your own witness to any thoughts, conversations, interpretations, or meaning. For now, just breathing and being.
And while you're breathing in and out, take a moment and notice how you're feeling right now. Notice how your body is feeling, any sensations or the absence of sensations. Now notice your emotional state, the state of your emotions. Just notice, nothing to be done. And notice your state of mind, your state of thought. And then slowly come back by opening your eyes, and then either Bob or Kim, if you want to share how you're feeling right now.
I feel beautiful. I don't know, that sounds a little bit out there, but I feel very good. And no, it made me feel alive, and it helped me make me feel like, I don't know, like I'm in my own moment, in my own moment, and enjoying every minute with my own moment. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And I feel at the moment. You, Kim?
I feel very peaceful. I love that breath. I do that breath a lot. Actually, just because I know it can, but I like, for me, because it empties my mind and I actually don't have thought when I'm doing that breath, because I'm in such deep concentration that I can just feel the energy moving throughout my body. And I felt just such a sense of peace and contentment through it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's it, and everybody in a body who does this gets a sense of, wow, my mind was so busy, I didn't realize I had so many thoughts, and that, as you continue to do it, you get less and less attached to the thoughts if they continue, and they just float on down the river. And that's the idea, because some of the deeply rooted triggers that we have, we get so overwhelmed, and then it becomes a somatic experience, and then it becomes so real that it feels there's nothing we can do. So to develop some capacity to have some distance from that, and then working with the altered state of the sexual, because we start with, working with people with emotional awareness practices, and developing that witness. And then things start to shift in terms of what they want to change in their life, because they see what we do unconsciously to create what we're getting.
Yeah.
So
let's go further. Now we, have connected with our own energy, the flow of it, and everyone could get a little sense just right now by connecting with yourself. So here in this moment, it was really moving subtle energy. Let's now translate this further into when we move orgasmic energy. And there are, different opportunities and challenges for the man versus the woman, or for the one who is more in their masculine and the other one who is more in their feminine. So when we look at male sexual energy, testosterone energy, it rises quickly, gets easily excited, and then drops quickly. Unlike feminine or yin energy, rises slowly. We don't know if it's coming or going. It's based in estrogen. It's a slow hormone. However, when it gets reawakened, it can come up to a plateau and then stay on the plateau for a long, long time. Multiple orgasms, orgasmic waves, or just being in the orgasmic, pleasurable ether. So when a couple may be together, it may be like this. The male energy goes up quickly, female energy is slowly still at the bottom. Male energy drops while she's still hanging out. So there is a disconnect then. And in the tantric practice, the man learns how to channel his energy, his wonderful, powerful testosterone energy, breathing it up into his heart so he can actually stay present and sustain the flow without losing the energy through an ejaculation. And then he's truly present to himself and to his partner. And that gives plenty of room and time. The woman doesn't feel rushed. You know, she also can trust because now he's truly there for her. And then we can meet on the plateau and ride the wave together.
Let me say a little something about this. So for men, many men come to this work and they hear about tantric lovemaking. They want to be this Svengali lovemaker. You know, they read an article or heard about an article that was Sting did about 30 years ago that he makes love to his wife for 8 hours. And it's not boom, 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 boom. I mean, there'd be broken hips and people would be in wheelchairs. You know, it's not, it's slow love, it's breathing, it's massaging, it's gazing, it's a whole litany of touch and, you know, sensation. So for the man and all the variations of Tantra there are, and we're Tantra Nova, Tantra Nu, so we're integrating aspects of the East and the West in terms of transformation, working primarily with sexual energetic, is for the man to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm. And so in doing that process, it's quite a chore for many men. It's a challenge because for men, there's two emotions typically that they're allowed socially and modeled. That's, excuse my French, fucking or fighting, right?
Yes.
Intimacy, you know, tenderness, nurturing, you know, vulnerability. That's not a man's thing. You know, that's what we're modeled, even though we feel all those emotions as well. So in the sexual experience, it's one of the one places that men can be totally unmasked. So we start feeling initially in our penises or our lingam, the Sanskrit term, the magic wand, you know, and so the little guy, the little boy with the little erection, look, ma, no hands, you know, and as grown men, we're run by our little head our whole life. So in the process of learning to separate ejaculation from orgasm, and there's a particular process that we lead them through and a homework practice that they do, they begin to uncouple how this energy has them. Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it, you know, falling in love? Do I feel like I deserve love? Possessiveness, jealousy, all it's loaded. I mean, the sexual energetic is loaded. So they get to look at all that through the sexual meditation practice and exercise, through learning the physical aspect of separating ejaculation from orgasm. And even if they don't get an erection, you can work with the soft on in ways that you can still continue to learn to move subtle energy body with the breath, attention and intention to the heart. So high level, low level. So men start to practice there. And that's when they start to glean some insights around their unconscious self. Yeah. So men really start to integrate this masculine, feminine dynamic, this yin yang balance, and that really improves their listening in their relationships.
And that is, you know, what we alluded to earlier. When a man learns to breathe up his wonderful testosterone energy from the wand into his heart, when his heart opens, I can feel that. Mm-hmm. I feel if he comes to me with like his wand primarily,
lust,
and there's nothing wrong about it. It's just not so great for connection. So when the wand is connected with the heart, it's not suppressing the wand energy. No, he uses the wand energy to embellish the heart. Then my heart opens. When my heart opens, my yoni opens. Yoni in Sanskrit means a woman's sexual center, or translated sacred space. So my sacred space opens, and then we have a circuit going back to his wand, up to his heart, to my heart. So it's all circular. And we want to tune with that. And the circularity only can be established through the breath. We focus on the breath. He breathes it up. I breathe it in from his heart into my heart. And then my yoni opens, my sacred space. And we move in that cycle.
Orbit, like an orbit.
Mm-hmm. And when we breathe together, we call it synchronized breath. What happens is that there is this experience of becoming one. Our bodies are still two bodies, but the experience is like...
At one level, they're two bodies. I mean, there's the field, you know, and science is talking about how it's all connected. I mean, string theory and so on.
Yeah. And so then your energy is connected more so to create that, like you said earlier, that dance of that energy, right? Between the spiritual and the grounding, right?
And that's another level of lovemaking. You'll look up and go, oh my God, we got to go. It's been 3 days, Kids have to be fed, the dog, and we got to go to work. It's timeless,
Yeah. So particularly if there are men out there who are listening, but also for us women to become aware of that ejaculation and orgasm are not the same. In our culture, we collapse it. Ejaculation is actually a reflex that happens in the pelvic floor. There's a muscular ring around the base of the wand, the penis. And that muscular ring at a level of 9.5, 9.75 on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the ejaculatory moment, that ring starts to quiver, the scrotum pulls up, all in service to eject the ejaculate. Once the ejaculate is gone, the energy is gone. So every ejaculation is a tremendous depletion of life force energy for the men. This is why they want to go to sleep or zone out in front of the TV. There's a disconnect with the partner. Not that he necessarily wants this. It's a biological thing. The energy got poof. So in the tantric practice, a man learns to sustain and circulate this wonderful energy, forego the reflex, and then breathe the sensation of the orgasmic feeling up from his lower center into his upper center. Of course, he can also send it into his third eye, in solo practice, he can dance with this. And then we can use that energy, actually, that aroused creative energy, to imbue our intentions in life, our project.
Transmute it, we call it. And, in our book, we mention Napoleon Hill, who wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich, years ago in the 30s, I think, or 40s. And in his book, he mentions lucky is the person who is able to use their sexual energy to create wealth. That was his whole thing, to shift your beliefs to create wealth. He didn't talk about how to do it. We do, wealth or relationship or whatever else you want to do. But he mentions it because it's been around for a long time. But many people don't realize that they can actually use energy is one, and science will tell you before you use it to light a light or drive a car or power a generator, it's one. So when we create, and when we're energetic, Kundalini energy, which is like that raw energy before it manifests as sexual energy or angry energy or happy energy or sad energy, we can learn to transmute that sexual energy. As Elsbeth was saying, when the man has the ejaculation, then there's refractory where we disengage. We are energetically and emotionally not available. We don't care. We're just flat. So for men, learning how to play on that edge and not like there's a thing called edging where you can get close to the orgasm and you hold off and you feel it and hold off and feel it. We're not talking about lasting longer. We're talking about consciously circulating this nectar with your breath, with yourself up and down in your heart and with your partner. And you can do that with a little practice of muscle awareness, breath awareness, and energetic sending, attention and intention, receiving, and so on. You can learn to tap into that. And that's another cosmic experience, that we're a part. You think about this universe that goes on forever, and that, biologically, I'm you and you're me. Chemically, we're the earth. And, atomically, we're the universe. I mean, it's all one. And, it's just our ego that thinks that we're separate from the whole thing. From birth to death. And this experience of life, I don't know what's before or after, but I don't think it's this. This is really a unique experience, so for us to continue to expand our consciousness, to grow to peace on earth, to a fulfilled, happy, and totally unique life, which we're having anyway, and to acknowledge that and dance in that, in all its glory, however it shows up for us, and you individually, all of us, that's our hope, and that's what's behind what we've been doing for the last 23 years.
That's amazing. It really impresses me a lot in that you talk about it and you teach it, because I find so many couples need this help to establish their relationship in a different way. Because so many relationships, you talk to people and they have problems. The doctor tells them different things too, that like that they tell you, well, you're going to be really dry now, so you're not going to be able to have sex as often, things like that. And that gets into a woman's mind that, oh no,
Right.
like I can't have that anymore, right? You're
Right.
saying no matter what, when you
Right.
put this energy, this creates all that beautiful
Yeah.
energy that they can share together, and that will bring that back. Like I'm thinking that, right?
Well,
It'll bring that back to stimulate both, right?
yes, and it's the will, and even if physically the body doesn't produce the erection like it was when they were 20 or the juices like it was when she was 20, you get lubricants, get pumps, use Viagra, get whatever you do to stay in that energy. And even if it's just holding yourself in a flaccid state, just an unaroused state, holding your second chakra, your genital area, and your heart, and breathing consciously. If that's you don't even need to do much more than that, because once you tune in consciously to creativity and pleasure, it starts showing up in the most subtle ways. The listening to the wind, or the seeing a child just walk for the first time, just the joy of things just brighten up, so.
I think, Bob, what you said about, that to see the possibility that aliveness can be with us until we leave this planet.
That's
That
right.
is what I heard you say, like in other words, but that we even hold it possible. Instead of, I remember, when I grew up, it was like turning 50 was getting old.
Yeah. No sex after that.
I'm 74 now, and I mean, it feels like life is unfolding even grander than I ever could experience or imagine it, and yes, of course, my body is changing, but that it's like being alive is, what thoughts do I want to think? What emotions do I want to feel? How do I want to feel in my body? And then, of course, I support my body.
Right. Yeah. I'm 67, so we both do the same thing. We eat good. We, do the things that feel good. We hug all the time. We love our work. We're alive in our life, and however it shows up, just keep listening to your aliveness,
And, also back to couples, Bob, what you said is that we keep the aliveness going between us. And I'm not talking about having to have wild sex.
All the time.
I like that.
That was typical men.
Still fun.
What state are we in together? Do we fight a lot? Do I, as a woman, complain a lot because, just not fully satisfied, or blame him for my discomfort? All of that. I mean, I'm familiar with that. I'm just like any other human. The question is, how do I shift out of it? What am I more committed to? To complaining and blaming, or to be in harmony and to be uplifting. So we have particular practices, we call them tantric quickies, and they are not in the bedroom. They can happen any moment of the day, which has to do with staying or reconnecting energetically. May we show it to you?
Yeah.
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 So,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
we also explain it because we know some people will just be here in audio, not in video. Do you want to guide it, darling?
Okay, so what we do, there's a couple of things. But one, if we're just like in the kitchen, I may put a hand on her heart and she put a hand on my heart, and we gaze into each other's left eye, and then we breathe in together, exhale together. On the next inhalation, we'll visualize receiving energy from the heart hand into our hearts. And on the exhalation, visualize sending into the other heart on the exhalation. And we'll just run that circuit for a minute or two.
And when looking into each other's left eye, the right
hemisphere.
brain hemisphere gets activated. So that connects us more with our feelings, the experience, the artistic part of us. So we tune with each other in that way. And the heart connection and circulating of that energy opens the heart to each other. We drop out of our mind, the chatter mind, into the heart connection. The heart is very forgiving, and it's the fastest way to connect, truly connect. And so instead of going into anger or being self-righteous and he did something I didn't like, so how do you dare? I can either go there or I can say, okay, this happened. Elsbeth, breathe. Let's connect. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy initially because I have to forego my impulse of anger. And that's not an easy thing, but if I choose to, I can learn it. And for a couple to be in synchronicity and in harmony, it's so great for the well-being of each of us, of the relationship.
It's just how you get there. How can you get there? You picture, if you're busy and you think, oh, well, this weekend we'll have sex, but you're just going to work and coming home and feeding the dog and feeding the kids. Da, 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 da. So you do one of these quickies on a regular basis before you head off for your day. Then it reminds you and it sets you, and then, you're still in that energy, that connected energy.
So it's like an energy that is ever present, that
Very
we
subtle.
tap into certain moments. And so when we move into intimate sexual connection, it's not a sudden thing, okay, now let's get it on. Often that doesn't work at all.
Guys, we have many couples, and she's like, I don't know if you love me. And he's like, yeah, of course I love you. Look at my erection, and she's like, yeah, but can you kiss me with your heart? And that's not something that's learned, so this kind of keeps that heart connection going. And then it's just an easy move to, more intimacy,
Yeah.
so.
And also opens me up to listen instead of make wrong.
Right.
Or
Tame.
yeah, because I can only listen from the heart, truly. And so then I can listen to him, okay, what may have moved him to do the thing that I didn't like? There was perhaps
just being a man.
Right. Or he didn't think anything of it, or he was in a survival moment and just did the best next thing that showed up for. Who knows,
That's wonderful. You guys had so much information. I think we could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours.
I really, truly do think so.
Yeah, and we appreciate it because you gave some free gifts for the listeners, and so I will include those in the show notes. There's an introduction to sexual meditation, a video class, and to find out some more about the workshops and programs. And then the Sexual Enlightenment book in a hard copy and audio format, the link to that on Amazon. So I'll include all of that. Can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yes, at tantranova.com, TANTRANOVA.com. Tantranova, like supernova, the new Tantra. And there is lots of information on that website, including all our programs and workshops for couples, for singles, for women only, for men only, private programs, because some people really prefer more one-on-one, be they coming as a couple or as an individual, and others appreciate the workshop environment. And yeah, we thought, Kim and Bob, that video class may be a great next level out of this conversation for each of you who listen today, to get actually a few practices that we teach in that class so that you can start applying what we talked about today.
Wow. Very generous and so needed out there. Very generous. So needed out there today, especially. And thank you. Thank you so much. And I know so many people will get something from this that they need.
Good. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And we'd love to have you back on to further go into this conversation because I think it's so enlightening for people to understand this energy and the way that we can connect to each other, and by finding that within ourselves, even how we can connect even more to each other, I think is so important to move our world forward. So we'd love to have you back on, and we so appreciate you taking the time to share space with us. So thank you
for your platform and having us on. Happy holidays to you and everyone listening.
Yes, yes.
You as well.
Thank you for your grace.
Thank you. And yours too. It's a pleasure to meet both of you, very much so. Yes.
Yes.
Please come back.
Live long and prosper.
All right. And thank you. And everybody else, please tune in next week.
You bet you will.